I'd like to recognize our BBB Board of Directors that are present here today, so if we could ask them to take a stand. I'm already standing. Greg from Gage Telephone. And because of today's topic, it's called Lasting First Impressions. We're going to do a little something different, which is actually something a little old that we've done in the past. And I think one of the benefits of being part of the BBB is that we kind of will give everybody a chance to introduce themselves and network amongst ourselves so that when BJ sends out the attendance and there's a little spreadsheet that has everybody's name and email address and phone number and contact information, if there's somebody that caught your ear when I take the microphone around and give you a chance to identify yourself and do a little, what we call a 5 or 7 second elevator speech. I'm sure you've heard of that. It's just who you are, what you do, and your benefit to others in the room. Just take a minute to do that, and if somebody caught your attention, then you'll have their contact information when BJ sends that to you later on. Prizes, BJ, are we going to do it at the table at the end, or are we going to announce them like we used to do it for the prizes? We have door prizes at the end.
We have ample time after Jeremy speaks. I think that would be great.
Okay, we'll do that. So anyway, we'll go around and do the introductions. Before we do that, though, there was one other thing that I wanted to kind of touch base with you all on. Are there any non-members here? It's not a bad thing if you aren't. If you're not a member, okay. Everybody else here is a member, so I'm counting like less than a half a dozen people that are not members. This is kind of a refresher for people who are members as to why you are and the benefits. And for those of you who are more consumers and maybe non-members, we just want to share some things about the Better Business Bureau and the importance of being a member, accrediting your business, or doing business with those who are accredited. For example, did you know that the BBB provides a variety of brochures on various topics of interest to consumers and business to enable them to make informed marketplace decisions? The BBB receives approximately 400,000 inquiries each year, and the average visit on the BBB website is 2.6 minutes. And is that a local stat, Greg, or is that a national stat?
That's local.
So 400,000 inquiries right here in our own backyard is pretty strong. You hear people talk about Angie's List and other websites that are consumer advocate websites. When the BBB is a free service, it's non-commercial, and all you got to do is key in BBB search or bbb.org/search. I've started making it a habit. I just bought some furniture. Before I bought the furniture, I checked the furniture store's accreditation. And even if they're not accredited, there is reviews from other consumers on there. So it's just like Yelp or Google search or some of the other search engines, but you really should use bbb.org/search to just check on any business or contractor or person that you do business with before you do. And today, 114 BBBs serve communities across the U.S. and Canada, evaluating and monitoring more than 3 million local and national businesses and charities. Just a few of the things that you should know about the BBB. If you're not a BBB member, think about the person of one of those 400,000 searches here locally that wanted to see if you're accredited. And just having that accreditation might make the difference between having a sale and not. And I think memberships started around $450 a year. Is that right? $425 a year, and you might have missed one sale for that much if by not being a member. So I kind of feel from our corner, what I do, and from what a lot of people who are members, it's a good return on your investment to have the seal. So look for the seal. Remember the BBB and what it represents here in the community. With Hatchet, Jeremy works with clients from around the world, from Fortune 500s to local startups. He'll create meaningful brand experiences in the form of interactive websites and creative branding initiatives. During his time at Louisiana State University, Jeremy co-founded Tigers Against Trafficking, which is a student organization that raised thousands of dollars for victims of human trafficking. Through his experience, he realized the effectiveness of an authentic and impactful brand. He went on to combine his passion for creativity with his background in economics to build Hatchet. He believes that when people authentically connect with the brand, they become ambassadors for that brand and will spread the brand by sharing it with others. We hear a buzzword a lot called tribes, building tribes, and Jeremy will talk to you a little bit about that too. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Jeremy Bate.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. It's really an honor to speak to you. I don't get to do a lot of these, and when I got asked, I had no idea what to expect. So this is awesome. It's a more casual, kind of conversational vibe than I expected. So I'm really excited about that. And what I'll do is I'll kind of jump right in, but I'm going to talk to you guys about what I've learned personally in my journey in our business, and I'll speak to you about a few lessons that hopefully you can take away from this speech and go back and improve particularly your digital part of your business and the web part of your business. But I'll start with a little background. I went to LSU about 10 years ago now, and I actually studied economics, which don't ask me why I did that. I have no idea. I don't think I ever liked it, not for one day. But I did it. It's like I need a business degree. And I went through school and I graduated at the end of '07 and jumped straight into the commercial real estate market as an appraiser. And if anyone remembers 2008, it wasn't the best year for real estate. So my job wasn't very fun. I spent a lot of time delivering bad news. I started to feel like, I was kind of just crushing dreams left and right. It's like, oh, your development isn't feasible. Oh, you're upside down. And it was awful. So I was like, I need out. I'm 2 or 3 years into this, and this is not fun. And I've always had a creative flair. I've played music my whole life. I've always liked to mess with the internet and just try to build things. So I kind of started doing that as a hobby and got approached by some friends from college to start Tigers Against Trafficking, which you briefly heard about. But it was just a student organization that they said, look, there's this big problem that no one's talking about, and we'd love to raise awareness, try to raise some money, and get people at LSU involved with this cause. And I was like, what is trafficking? I thought they were talking about I-10, and I didn't know. So I started researching it, and I was like, wow, Baton Rouge is a hub for trafficking. It's huge here, and nobody knows. So I started helping out. I said, I'll do what I can. And they said, oh, well, you're the creative guy. I was like, I am? Okay, all right. So we had to get the message out on campus. We were going to do a 5K. We needed to raise money. We had a goal of $10,000, and we had no idea what we were doing. So I started making flyers, and I'm trying these dramatic pictures and these really compelling messages, and we're putting them everywhere. We're going to Free Speech Alley and giving them out. And we weren't getting much of a response. It's just like everything else. There's so much media out there, it just gets tossed in the trash. So what we learned is we had to meet the right people in the right place to get results. So what we learned is girls were responding much more than guys. They were just more into the issue. I think they could relate more to it. So we started targeting the females more than the males. Well, we ended up getting a team of girls together and raided the girls' bathrooms with flyers. So they went in and posted them on all the stalls. And talk about a captive audience, right? So we had them cornered. We had the flyer in their face, and guess what? They showed up. The website started getting hits. People started registering. Long story short, the first year we raised like $15,000. Just 3 people, not knowing what we were doing. So it was a huge success, and it taught me a lot of lessons. And kind of walking away from that event, I realized I was like, this is something I could do. I love this. You can make an impact. You can really connect with people and get behind a story, get behind a cause. And long story short, I quit my job and started a business. Me and a friend, it was, obviously one of the scariest things. I'm sure a lot of you have done it, jumping out of a stable career, and you've got this path laid out into the unknown. And we did it, and we've been so fortunate to have found success up to this point. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about how to make a good brand impression, particularly, and even more specifically than that, how to make a good brand impression on the web. So we focus on the web, we focus on digital. I know you guys have probably heard a lot about branding and impressions, so I kind of narrowed this down to focus on technology. So as I'm talking, some stuff might get technical. I might move fast. I tend to talk fast, so just stop me or raise your hand if you have questions. I see this as a conversation, so please just, if something's weird, you're like, what is he talking about? Just stop me and ask, please. So I'll get right into it. So what's a great impression look like? Or what does a great impression not look like? It probably doesn't look like this. When you're talking about first impressions, we all know that guy, right? So he's the guy who everyone knows he's there, but nobody really wants to hang out with him. They might keep him at a distance. They're not really calling him for beers on Friday night. You know, what's a great impression look like? Might look more like that. Smooth, right? Check this out. Pretty good. So this guy, you know, she's going to remember him. She's going to talk about him. He might get a phone number. I don't know. But that's a great first impression. So the first impression really determines how people feel about you. It determines what they think about you. It determines how they respond to you. And it determines what they say about you. So whenever they leave after that initial impression, what are their actions going to look like? What are they going to do? That's how we think about this when we're talking about brands and when we're talking about websites. We see websites as your brand's digital handshake. It's your first impression on the web. Just like when you walk in here, they have this ambiance and all this environment, and they've got this setting. It's all about this experience and this impression that you're getting. Why should the web be any different? It shouldn't. You know, so for so long it's been brochures, content, paragraphs. That doesn't get me excited. That doesn't get anybody excited. So I'm going to speak specifically about 3 ways that you guys can leave here and hopefully improve your website or take steps to get more results from your web. You know, there are things you can do without spending a lot of money to really change the game for your web. Everything from being able to charge more for your services to getting more leads to selling more products. It's easier than you think, but people just don't know. So hopefully what I share today will help you guys out. So starting with number 1, what do you have to do? You have to put yourself out there. You have to get out in front of people. So I have a quick story. In college, I had a roommate. He hated being single, but he was always single. He would always complain. I need a girlfriend. You know, I'm so lonely. And I was like, man, you're a great guy. You just need to go meet people. But he always wanted to play video games or watch movies. You know, he kind of was introverted. He stayed in the apartment, and I would tell him, get out there. You have to put yourself in front of the people that you want to engage with. If you want to meet people, you have to get in front of them. So that principle applies to your brand too. If you're on the internet, but you're in some obscure corner where nobody can find you, it doesn't matter how good your website is, they're not going to find you. So how do you put yourself out there? I'll tell you one more story. I've got a lot of stories, so I'll tell you one more story about a client of ours. They're called Deuce Rods. They're out of Lafayette. They make awesome fishing rods. They're boutique brand, handmade. They have this special technology that nobody else uses. And they came to us and they said, hey, we've got a website. We just built it this year, and we're not selling anything. And we don't know what's wrong. The site looks good. It has a store. The prices are fine. What's going on? So we took a look, and what we did is we approached this from a technical standpoint. So we look at the brand story, and we look at the presentation, and those are all important factors. But first and foremost, are you putting yourself out there? Are you findable? So when people Google the right terms, are you showing up? So we did an audit of their site, and we determined that they weren't targeting the right audience. They were targeting fishermen, the fishing industry in general, but they have a boutique product for certain applications for certain kind of fish. So we said you need to be targeting these specific markets, these specific types of people. We rebuilt the site, redesigned it, created some awesome design ingredients and all this stuff, and built a great search engine optimization plan and relaunched the site. And after we launched the site, not only did they start selling products immediately, but 90% of their visitors went into their store within 1 click. So their conversion rate just skyrocketed within 1 month. And it's all about using the right strategy behind the design. So search engine optimization, it's not just a buzzword. There's a lot of people who think it's snake oil. It can be. You know, there are people out there who will sell that service and not really do much. Make sure you're working with someone who's gotten results, someone who can speak credibly about it, but it is a very, very important part of your web strategy. And it's a fluid, dynamic thing. It changes, and it's an ongoing effort. So this is an interesting stat to me. 95% of searchers never get past the first page on Google. So if you're not on the first page you're not getting found. That's really the message you should take away from here. So you should take all the steps you need to get in front of people. So I'm going to give you 3 quick things you can do just to optimize your site for search. Write great content, blog often, and make your site responsive. I'm going to speak a little bit about each of these things. Yeah, and if you guys want to try to write this stuff down, it's going to get pretty deep. So I don't know. We'll see. So write great content. What does that mean? So there's an art to writing content on the web. You need to target the right keywords for the right people on the right pages at the right time. So what that means is talk about your values, talk about your story, but make sure you're using the right words. And it can't be, Google's gotten smart. What they used to do about 10 years ago is every web designer would take all of the keywords that apply to your business, just like, 1,000 of them, and paste them on the site and make them white so you couldn't see them, and just put them behind the website. And you were showing up for all these cool terms and getting great results. Well, Google wised up to that. You can't do that anymore. Now Google only reads visible content, and they read content that is written for humans. So you can't just put a bunch of words together. It has to make sense. They've got algorithms that are way smarter than me. And writing the content in a great way, using the right architecture, using headlines with subheadlines with paragraphs is very important. If you work with any good web agency, they know this and they're going to do this for you, but it's something that you should be aware of. If you've got headlines all over the place and there's no hierarchy, you're hurting yourself. The second part, blog often. This is something easy that a lot of people just don't do. I know it takes time, but blogs don't have to be introspective, deep thoughts. You can write 1 or 2 paragraphs about something you're knowledgeable on and get results. It's a great way to target niche audiences. So if you own a car dealership and you want to talk about the 2016 sports car that's coming out, write a blog about it. Talk about the features, talk about all this stuff, and you can really get in the weeds of the details on the blog and attract people who are searching for that car. You might show up on Google as a recent post and they're funneled right into your site. Now you've got them. You're the expert on the topic. You've established yourself as the expert. This is something we encourage people to do. It's really important to make a blog calendar and stick to it. Be blogging once or twice a month. Consistency is key here. Doing it once or twice isn't going to make a difference. You have to do it consistently, and you'll see over time, 3 to 6 months, results. The third thing you can do is make your site responsive. So does anybody here know what responsive design even means? Is that a term that you're familiar with? Me and you. So it's a term that nobody knows exists because it's probably 2 years old, in the mainstream. But in the internet world, it is everything right now. So what that means is, this is a great example of a responsive website. You'll see that this is the same site displayed 3 different ways on 3 different screens. Responsive is the term used to describe a website that detects your screen size and adapts for that screen. So it's serving up content in a way that's easy to understand. It scrolls, it's readable, it's big text, buttons are clear. Google has mandated as of this year that if you don't make your site responsive, they're going to start penalizing you. They call it mobile-geddon. That's kind of the term flying around. And there's all these people like, mobile-geddon, oh my God. They call us, what's going on? Like, it's okay. So if you could actually pull your website up on your phone now or whenever, and if you have to pinch it and zoom in to read it and get through it, it's probably not responsive. It's time to start thinking about this. This is something that can be done retroactively, but a lot of the time it makes more sense to just kind of create a new site at that point, because depending on how your site's built, sometimes it's tough to go back. But it is something that you should definitely make a 2016 line item. Should be done. Otherwise, you're in trouble. So, to summarize, point 1, search engine optimization is the best way to put yourself out there. Get in front of the right people in the right place at the right time. If you put yourself out there, you're going to see your traffic numbers go up. You can watch that with Google Analytics or any good analytics software and get your traffic up. But once your traffic is up, what do you do now? You've got them looking at you. You've got them coming to you. But what does that mean? Are they becoming customers? Are they becoming brand ambassadors? What kind of impression are you going to make? So that brings me to point number 2. invite and delight. So you've finally gotten out of the house. You've gone to the party, but now you're standing in the corner, and you're kind of awkward and you don't really want to talk to anybody. That's not who you want to be on the internet. You want to be the guy with a great story. You want to be the guy who people want to talk to. They're attracted to you. You've got something interesting that they want to know. They want to tell their friends about you. So how do you do that? That's step 2. They're all looking at you. What now? So user experience. This is the big hot buzzword right now. It's been around forever on the internet. It's kind of king right now. That's what everyone's talking about. Kind of the philosophy that we follow and what comes behind this is the world is built on great experiences. People spend big money to go to theme parks. They spend big money on restaurants. They spend money on hunting trips, whatever it is. That's all about experience. Why should the web be any different? Why is the web the place where everything's the same and it's all kind of boring and monotone? It shouldn't be, and it doesn't have to be. Most people are looking at you on the web first. That's the reality. So make it a great experience. Make it better or as good as whatever you're doing in your brick and mortar, whatever you're doing on the phone. So how do you do that? 3 points. Tell a great story. Use excellent design and make sure your site is accessible to everybody. So once again, I'll go a little bit deeper on each of these 3 points and explain how we do that and how I've learned to do that and get results. So telling a great story, some people, actually a lot of people, come to us and they're like, my business just doesn't have a story. We're just a business. We just do a service. And we always say, no business is boring. Every business has a story. Tell us about your journey. How did you start the business? What were those memorable moments that happened along the way? What are the differentiators? What are the things in your business that make you special? Everybody's got one, otherwise you wouldn't have a successful business. That's just what it boils down to. So we help you root out that story and write a brand story with those remarkable points that get people interested and get people to rally around you. You want people to feel like they're part of your world and part of your life. You want to bring them in. So when it comes to telling a great story, I love this example. Does anybody recognize that brand? Probably most of you. This is one of my favorite brands. I love to camp. I love to go outside. These guys are one of the best brands for selling outdoor gear. They're really expensive, but a lot of people pay for their products. Why? Because they tell a great story and they back it up with great design. So does anybody know the Patagonia story? There's a documentary that's out now, but long story short, these coal miners from the East Coast, I think they were in like Virginia or Pennsylvania, they were basically coal miners living a very routine life, and they just got sick of it, and one day they hopped in a VW van and started driving. And this was late 60s, early 70s. Who knows what else they were doing. But they're in the VW van, they're cruising, and they start headed south. They go through Mexico, through Central America, and just keep driving. End up running into the end of the world. Patagonia is the tip of South America, about as close to Antarctica as you can get. And they just adventured. They climbed mountains, they skied, they surfed, they did everything. They rode on fishing boats, and they tell this story about their adventure and how when they got home, coal mining just wasn't an option anymore. They had to start a business that supported their passion for this industry, for this adventure, this story that they wanted to tell. I bought into the story. I bought into it so much that I booked a ticket to Patagonia. I'm going next year. I've got to see it for myself. But that's the power of a good brand story. Without them, I probably wouldn't even know it exists, to be honest with you. They've literally changed. They've created an entire tourism market in Patagonia around their brand because the story. But if you just tell a good story, that's not enough. If you tell a story and you sell terrible products, that story's not going to hold for very long. So with Patagonia, they sell a premium product, they tell a great story, and that product backs it up. Their gear is good, their stuff holds up. It backs up what they're talking about. So that's what we talk about when we talk about excellent design and excellent simple content. You want to make sure when people get to your website and you're telling them your story, that the experience is beautiful. You know, use authentic language, great images, simple messages. It's not your job to say everything. It's your job to say the right things. You know, a lot of times if you ask someone, what do you want out of your website? I just want people to call. You know, I want more leads. Get people to call me. It's like, so why do you have 6 paragraphs about, you know, your bio? I mean, that's great and everything. There's a place for that, but if you want them to call, just tell them what you do better than everyone else. Tell them what makes you special. Tell your story and ask them to call you. Keep it really simple. Make it beautiful. It's so hard to convey that message across to a lot of clients because they don't fully understand kind of the journey that the user is going on. And by the time they get to your website, they probably already kind of know what they're looking for, and they're not always looking for a ton of information. They're more looking for a path to connect with you and a reason to relate to you, a reason to want to work with you. So we really try to whittle it down to simple content. You know, simple, great design is simple and clear. We say make it easy for the user to engage with you. Make it easy for them to understand your story. If you look at any of the big brands and go to their websites, you'll see examples of this all the time. So this is an example of a bad and a good website. You know, on this website, it's like, I don't know should I click that or is she yelling at me? I don't know. Is this a key ring for this? I don't know. What do I click on? What do I do? What's important here? We don't know. And that's an extreme example, obviously. But the point is, there's no hierarchy. There's no simplicity. I don't know what to do here. But if you look over at Southwest's new website, it's crystal clear. They give the user exactly what they came for. We're celebrating the holidays with a special. Here's one clear call to action. Here's what you can click on. It's one button. You know, minimize the decision making. Don't overwhelm them with paralysis of decision. And then underneath that, here, book a flight. We know most of you are here to book a flight. Here's how you do it. All on the first page. It's not complicated. You don't have to run through a maze to get there. It's simple. And they don't have to convince you to do it, because by the time you get there, you probably already know you're looking for plane tickets, you know, and that's usually the case. So the last point here is accessibility. This is something a lot of people aren't talking about, but we think is really important. Some businesses are international. Is your website supported in multiple languages? Some businesses cater to the deaf or the blind. Is your website accessible to those people? There are ways to do that. There are ways to write code that will run through software that blind people use to understand and interpret the website. Make sure your site's accessible to those people. Also, people with older machines, people with older browsers. Is your site displaying on those browsers? These are questions you should ask. This is becoming a larger issue as the internet creeps into the corners of the world. People speak different languages. They have different machines. Is your site accessible? This is something we really learned with a few of our clients who are based out of Germany and Israel. And building for them is, you know, their screens are a different shape. So we have to design a whole different way, but they still have an American market. So we've really learned about accessibility and what that really means. And it's a very interesting and very complicated topic, but we think it's really important. So to summarize, when you invite and delight your audience with an experience worth sharing, they become customers and brand ambassadors. So what that means is you've put yourself out there, you've become the life of the party. They're so into what you're doing, they really like what you're doing, it's simple for them to get. Now they start talking about you. They want to share it on social media, they want to tell their friends, they want to blog about you. And by the way, if someone blogs about you or points a link back to your site, that's a huge plus for SEO. So your search engine optimization is reliant on other people liking and trusting you. Google is always looking for that. Google calls it trust, which is becoming more and more important in the search engine game. So now we've gotten to the party. We're having a great conversation. People like us. What next? You got to close the deal. You got to get the number. You know, you got to do whatever you got to do. So how do you close the deal? You've got people captivated. They're wrapped up. They're excited. We'll show you how we do it. We make the path to success painstakingly simple. You know, it's like get the frills out of the way. get the options out of the way and make it simple. You can look at brands like Apple. They're the kings of simplicity. They've dominated a market on that principle. And I'm sure there's at least a few people in here who hate that I say that, because there's the Microsoft loyalists, but there's no denying that simplicity is appealing to a user. Your website shouldn't be a maze. It should be a freeway, straight to conversion. So, not that. When you think about your website, which one does yours look like? I would challenge you to look at your website and put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's coming there for the first time. Do they get it? Are they really understanding your values and what you would say to them if you were shaking their hand in person? If not, consider a redesign. Consider rethinking how you're positioning yourself on the web. Eliminate the bounce. Does anybody know what that means? Does anybody know what a bounce rate is? So the bounce rate in internet world is a huge deal. The bounce rate is the number of people that come to your site and leave before they ever do anything. They don't click anything. They look, they say, I don't want none of this. And they roll, and they go to your competitor. That's a huge metric that we keep an eye on. We think everyone should keep an eye on it. If you're not watching your bounce rate, all you have to do is plug Google Analytics into your site, and they'll tell you. It's so easy. And if you have an agency or a web designer, ask them to do it for you. The bounce rate is basically your mission is to constantly get it lower. You want to get as few people bouncing as possible. And it's actually pretty fun because we'll come to our clients usually every month or two and report to them with analytics and say, here's how your site's performing, here's your bounce rate, here's where it was last month, and we'll start graphing it. And we try to make that graph go down, and if it goes up, that's on us, and we have to explain ourselves. So it's fun for me. Sometimes it's stressful, but it's fun because it teaches you a lot about what works and what doesn't work. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at how simple you have to make things sometimes. People they don't give you any time. Google just released a study. They said, on average, a person determines how they feel about your website within 500 milliseconds. That's nothing. That's like the blink of an eye. And that is a backed study that Google released. So with that in mind, it's like, you almost can't say much. We're a very visual economy. We're a visual culture, especially the younger generation. They're driven by images and graphics and interactions, videos. So it's like, get the media out there, say something with visuals and tag it with one headline, and you'll be good. It really works. We've seen it work over and over again. So I'll tell you a quick story about another customer of ours. Some of you might recognize the K2 Coolers brand. They came to us about 3 years ago. Similar story as before. They had a website, they had a web store, everything seemed to be in order. And they came to us and said, hey, can you help us tweak this? For some reason, our brick and mortar retailers are crushing our online store. Why? The online has a global reach. So we started to look at it. We said, yeah, we'll do a refresh, kind of thing. And I always hate doing refreshes because it's like it's kind of like trying to decorate over something that's broken. I'm always like, we just need to redo it. But we started trying to refresh it, and the more we looked, the more we realized they weren't following any of our principles. The SEO structure and the search engine optimization strategy just was non-existent. The kind of making a good first impression and telling your brand story, it wasn't happening. They were just putting their products out there, hey, we're affordable, buy us. And it's like, that doesn't get me excited. I'm going to go over to Yeti and pay twice as much because the Yeti story and the Yeti brand, I know they're good. I believe in them. So we started looking at it, and we had a conversation with them, and eventually we all decided, all right, let's back out and start over. So we started a redesign, and we scrapped kind of it was very text heavy and just had a lot of pictures of ice chests, and you could buy them. And we said, let's tell your story. Let's capture the lifestyle. K2 is huge. People love to hunt and fish and tailgate, and they all want this product, And right now, Yeti is winning in South Louisiana. Yeti shouldn't be winning in South Louisiana. K2 should. They're built in Lafayette. So we rewrote their story. We went to their factory. We met all their workers. We understood the DNA of what they were doing, and we met their customers. We started meeting their partners. And we said, we just said, wow, this culture around this company is incredible. They have loyalists like no one else, and they're not telling anybody. They're not telling this story. So we rewrote the story. We redesigned the website. We produced videos behind it to support it. And this is kind of what we came up with. So this is the new homepage that we launched a couple of years ago. What I did here is I documented 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 4 ways that people can buy the product from the homepage. We wanted to make sure we didn't miss a customer. So we've got this lifestyle photo. We hired a photographer to come in and create all of these great images of people using the coolers in lifestyle settings. If you look at the top, you'll see a K2 lifestyle link. We have social media integration. We have a hashtag that we run. We have stories of customers and users. We have brand ambassadors. We have sponsored users. We really built out the brand lifestyle into the website. And what happened is after we launched this site and we gave users a way to engage with the brand and to buy the product, sales tripled in the first month that we launched. So they tripled revenues, and it has only increased since then. You can look at the graph, and it's crazy. It's undeniable. The techniques work, and it's really cool for us to see our customers win, and it makes it really easy to go back to them and make suggestions when they trust you. And you can validate what you've done, and you're not just selling a pretty picture, because a pretty picture doesn't do it. You have to have the story behind the picture. So, in conclusion, don't miss a sale. Give users that clear pathway. Give them the opportunity to do what they came to do. Tell your story, but make sure they have a way to reach out to you and connect with you. Whether that's a sale, whether that's filling out a contact form and getting in touch with you, making a phone call, or downloading a resource. Whatever that might look like, define that moment for your user and give them a way to do it everywhere they go. We have what we call the no dead ends approach. We kind of throw that around the office all the time. If a page ends and there's nowhere to go, it's broken. You always give them a step. So if the page ends, you say, hey, now that you've learned about this, come check out what we're doing over here. You've just studied about our history, come over here and learn about our team. Something, always give them a path. And if you do those things, you'll be shocked at how your website will change your business. And I'm a strong believer in this, particularly in the web. I think everyone here knows the web is, people access it more and more every day. That's the number one way that people get an impression of your brand. And it is so denied by so many businesses. They just don't want to put the time and energy into it. And I would challenge you today to try these things and see what happens. Put yourself out there, invite people in, and give them a way to engage with you. And you'll see your business grow. You'll see people expecting to pay more. You'll see people talking about you. And all of a sudden, your brand will start to grow on its own without any advertising dollars. It's pretty incredible. I've seen it time and again. So that concludes my speech.